Okay, folks. So today we are going to take a deep dive into a story that's got it all. Baseball history, presidential power, a ton of controversy.
Oh, yeah.
It all revolves around the late Pete Rose, him, the hit king.
Right.
And there's this news about a possible pardon for him that has
Eh,
everybody talking.
Everyone's buzzing about it for sure.
Yeah, Pete Rose, a legend on the field. But his legacy, it's a bit messy, to put it lightly.
It is. Yeah, complicated's a good word for it.
Complicated, yeah.
He's got the record, most hits in Major League Baseball. Incredible. An incredible accomplishment. But he's also been banned from the sport for decades because of those gambling accusations.
Okay.
And, that's ultimately what cost him a spot in the Hall of Fame.
Exactly. And years after his death, former President Trump has stepped into the picture, and he's proposing a pardon for Rose.
Interesting.
But here's the catch to the pardon. It's not about the gambling scandal.
Oh.
It's focused on this tax evasion conviction from back in 1990, a totally separate thing.
Right. Totally separate. That's the thing about presidential pardons. They have a specific scope.
Okay.
They can address federal crimes, but they can't just overturn decisions made by, other groups like Major League Baseball or the Hall of Fame. So this pardon wouldn't erase Rose's ban or anything, or guarantee him a spot in Cooperstown.
Okay, so before we get into the pardon and what it all means,
Yeah.
let's rewind a bit and look back at Rose's career. Remind us what made him such a phenomenal player before all the controversy happened.
All right, picture this. It's 1985. Pete Rose, playing for his beloved Cincinnati Reds, he steps up to the plate. The tension is thick. You can cut it with a knife. He's going after Ty Cobb's all-time hits record, a record that had stood for over half a century.
Wow.
And then crack of the bat, he does it. He surpasses Cobb and cements his place in baseball history.
Unbelievable.
This was more than just hitting. He had this gritty, this determined style of play. That's why they called him Charlie Hustle.
Oh, I remember those days. So exciting. He wasn't just getting hits, he was managing the Reds, too, adding yet another level of achievement to his already, amazing resume.
That's right.
And then, boom, it all falls apart. You were covering baseball back then.
I was.
What was it like when those gambling allegations first came out?
It was like a bomb went off. This wasn't just any player. This was Pete Rose,
Right.
a revered figure accused of betting on baseball games,
Yeah.
including games with his own team.
Wow.
The news spread like wildfire. The baseball world was in shock.
I bet.
Fans were devastated, and the media was all over it.
I can only imagine. It's crazy to think he bet on his own WN team. What was he thinking? Why is betting on baseball? Especially for a manager considered such a huge no-no.
It all comes down to the integrity of the game. If a manager who has a say in player decisions and game strategies is betting on outcomes, it casts a shadow of doubt on every single play. Did he make a pitching change because it was the best strategic move? Or because of his bet?
It just throws everything into question. It undermines the fairness of the competition and the trust fans have in the game.
Makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And this, of course, is what led to his ban from baseball.
Yes.
And that made him ineligible for the Hall of Fame, right?
Absolutely. It's like an unspoken rule in baseball. You can be the most talented player, break every record. But if you mess with the integrity of the game, there's a price to pay. And for Rose, that price was being shut out of the Hall of Fame. That place reserved for baseball's elite.
So this brings us back to the proposed pardon.
Right.
Trump has been very open about supporting Rose for years.
He has.
Back in 2013, he even publicly asked the Hall of Fame to reconsider Rose's induction. But this pardon, the one addressing the tax evasion, it wouldn't actually change anything about his Hall of Fame eligibility, would it?
No, not at all. It's more of a symbolic thing, a way of acknowledging a past wrong. But it doesn't have the power to overrule Major League Baseball or the Hall of Fame. Their rules regardless of a presidential pardon.
So then, what does this pardon actually mean for Rose's legacy? Does it reignite the debate about his place in baseball history?
It definitely adds another wrinkle to the story. On the one hand, you've got his incredible accomplishments on the field, records that still stand today. But then there's the shadow of what he did, things that went against the core of the sport.
Right.
This pardon forces us to face a tough question. Can we separate the art from the artist? Can we celebrate Rose's achievements while acknowledging the serious wrongs that led to his downfall?
That's a good question. What stands out to you about this whole situation?
To me, it really highlights how complicated legacies are. We like to put people in neat boxes, hero or villain, but it's often much more nuanced than that. This story makes us think about how we remember people who have done great things, but also made significant mistakes.
I think you've hit it right on the head. And for those of you listening, here's something to think about. If Rose does end up in the Hall of Fame, how should his story be told? Should it just be about his accomplishments? Or should it include everything he did, good and bad? There are no easy answers, and this reflects a larger conversation about how we as a society choose to remember our complex historical figures.
That's right.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We'll see you next time.
See you later.